My name is Victoria Ashworth, and at 78 years old, I thought I'd seen every kind of betrayal this world had to offer. I was wrong. The worst betrayal came from the three people I loved most, my own grandchildren. It was Thanksgiving Day 2024, in my sprawling Victorian home in Savannah, Georgia. The dining room sparkled with my grandmother's crystal chandelier. The mahogany table set with the finest china I'd collected over 5 decades. I'd spent 3 days preparing their favorite dishes. Just like I had every year since their parents, my son Michael and daughter-in-law Sarah, died in that car accident. 10 years ago, 22-year-old Bryce, my eldest grandson, barely looked up from his phone as I placed the golden turkey on the table. Grandma V, this whole formal dinner thing is so outdated. Nobody does this anymore. 18-year-old Madison rolled her eyes, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against her designer purse. Seriously, Grandma, you're so out of touch with reality. This house, these antiques, this whole lifestyle is ancient history. But it was 16-year-old Tyler who delivered the final blow. Face it, Grandma, you're irrelevant. The world has moved on without you. And honestly, you should just accept that you don't matter anymore. The words hit me like physical blows. These children whom I'd raised, loved, protected, and provided for were looking at me like I was some relic cluttering up their modern world. I felt something crack inside my chest, not just my heart, but something deeper, my faith in family, my belief in love, my trust in the people I'd sacrificed everything for. Before I tell you what happened next, I need you to know that this story gets darker and more twisted with every revelation. If you've ever felt dismissed or underestimated by younger family members, please subscribe and ring that notification bell. And if you have your own story about ungrateful relatives, share it in the comments below. I'll personally read everyone, trust me. After you hear what these children did to their own grandmother, you'll have plenty to say. Now, let me take you back to that devastating dinner. I excused myself from the table, claiming I needed to check on dessert in the kitchen. I gripped the marble counter and forced myself to breathe. 40 years of widowhood had taught me to be strong, but this felt different. This felt like the end of everything I'd built. You see, my late husband Charles had left me more than just this house, much more. Our shipping company, Ashworth Maritime, had quietly grown into a billion-dollar empire. I'd spent decades expanding our fleet, negotiating international contracts, and building a business that now employed over 3,000 people across 4 continents. But I'd kept this success hidden from my grandchildren, wanting them to love me for who I was, not what I owned. When I returned to the dining room with my famous pecan pie, the children were deep in conversation with my neighbor, Patricia Clemens. Patricia, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, had always been jealous of my late husband's success and my comfortable life. Mrs. Ashworth, Patricia said with full sweetness, I was just telling your grandchildren about the senior living facility in Charleston. It's really quite nice, and with your age, it might be time to consider downsizing. Bryce leaned forward eagerly. That actually makes sense, Grandma. This house is way too big for one person, and all this stuff. He gestured dismissively at my priceless antiques. It's just collecting dust. Madison nodded enthusiastically. We could sell everything and split the money. Then you'd have enough for a nice little apartment somewhere. And we could finally do something meaningful with our lives. Tyler smirked. Plus, Grandma, let's be honest, you're not getting any younger. Wouldn't you be happier somewhere with people your own age, people who understand your limitations? I watched Patricia's satisfied smile and felt puzzle pieces clicking into place. She'd been working on them, filling their heads with ideas about my supposed decline and their rightful inheritance. But what chilled me to the bone was seeing how Eagerly, my grandchildren had embraced her suggestions that night after they'd gone back to their college dorms and high school friends. I sat in my study surrounded by portraits of 5 generations of Ashworth women. Each one had faced adversity. Each one had found a way to fight back. It was time I remembered what I was made of the next morning. I drove to downtown Savannah to my private officer place my grandchildren had never seen. The brass nameplate on the door read Victoria Ashworth, CEO, Ashworth Maritime Industries, inside. My assistant Eleanor Martinez was waiting with quarterly reports. Mrs. Ashworth, Eleanor said, spreading financial documents across my desk. The Singapore expansion is ahead of schedule, and the new green shipping initiative is attracting major clients. We're looking at a 23% increase in revenue this quarter. I studied the numbers, feeling the familiar rush of business success. Ashworth Maritime now controlled shipping routes from New York to Tokyo, owned 17 major ports, and had exclusive contracts with some of the world's largest manufacturers. The company was worth $12 billion, and it was growing every day. But more than the money, I thought about the 3,000 families who depended on these jobs. The scholarships our foundation provided to underprivileged students, and the environmental initiatives that were cleaning up our oceans. This wasn't just wealth, it was responsibility, legacy, and purpose. Eleanor, I said slowly, I need you to prepare some very special documents for me. And I need you to contact Jonathan Blackwood at Blackwood Legal. Tell him it's urgent. That afternoon, Jonathan, my lawyer for over 20 years, sat across from me in his mahogany-panelled office. He was a distinguished man in his early 60s, with silver hair and intelligent brown eyes that had seen their share of family drama. Victoria, he said carefully, are you absolutely certain about this plan? Once we set these wheels in motion, there's no going back. I thought about Tyler's cruel words, Madison's dismissive attitude, and Bryce's eager greed. Jonathan, I raised those children to be kind, grateful, and responsible. Instead, they've become entitled strangers who see me as an obstacle to their inheritance. They need to learn what they're really inheriting, and more importantly, what they could lose. The fake bankruptcy documents will need to be convincing, Jonathan warned. If they discover the truth before you're ready, they won't, I said firmly. They think I'm a helpless old woman who barely understands how to use a cell phone. They have no idea I've been running a billion-dollar company while they were learning to walk. I started small, testing their reactions to my supposed financial decline. During our weekly Sunday dinner, I served a simple casserole instead of my usual elaborate meal. Sorry, darlings, I said with practiced worry in my voice. Money's been a bit tight lately. The stock market hasn't been kind to old ladies like me. Bryce barely looked up from his phone. Yeah, whatever, Grandma. Hey, could you loan me $2,000 for spring break? My trust fund check is late again. Madison laughed. Mine too. I need at least $1,500 for this designer bag I've been wanting. It's limited edition. Tyler, ever the charmer, smiled sweetly. And I could really use a new gaming setup. Just $5,000 should cover it. $8,500. They wanted $8,500 from a grandmother they believed was struggling financially. The casual cruelty of it left me speechless. I don't have that kind of money right now, I said quietly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Bryce finally looked up from his screen, his face twisted with annoyance. What do you mean you don't have it? You live in this huge house. You have all this expensive stuff. Maybe it's time to start selling some of this junk, Madison said, eyeing my grandmother's pearl necklace around my neck. I mean, what do you need all these antiques for anyway? Tyler's mask slipped completely. Seriously, Grandma, stop being selfish. We're your family. We deserve to benefit from what you have. That word deserve echoed in my mind long after they'd left in huffs of indignation. They believed they deserved my life's work simply by existing. They had no concept of earning, building, or sacrificing. They only understood taking. 2 days later, Patricia Clemens appeared at my door with a manila folder and a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Victoria, dear," she said, settling uninvited into my living room. "I've been talking with your grandchildren, and we're all concerned about your financial situation. I've taken the liberty of researching some options for you." She spread brochures across my coffee table: nursing homes, senior communities, and estate liquidation services. "Now, I know this seems overwhelming, but if you sign over power of attorney to someone more capable of handling your affairs, it would take all this burden off your shoulders. And who would you suggest?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Well, Bryce is the oldest, and he's shown such maturity lately." Patricia pulled out official-looking documents. "These papers would transfer decision-making authority to him for your own protection." Of course, for my own protection from the woman who was orchestrating my downfall with the help of my own grandchildren. The audacity was breathtaking. "I'll need time to think about this," I said carefully. Patricia's smile tightened. "Of course, dear, but don't take too long. Your grandchildren are worried sick about you, and frankly, some of your recent decisions have been concerning." That evening, I called Jonathan Blackwood with my final plan. It was risky, potentially heartbreaking, but absolutely necessary. "Create a fake will," I instructed. "Make it look like I'm leaving everything: the house, my savings account, all of it, to a cat sanctuary in Charleston. Make sure there are just enough financial mistakes in my recent records to suggest I'm losing my mental faculties." "And the real will?" Jonathan asked. "Lock it in the vault, but make sure Bryce can accidentally discover the fake one when he comes to pressure me about that power of attorney." 2 weeks later, my trap was set. I called Bryce, my voice trembling with convincing frailty. "Sweetheart, could you come over? I'm having trouble with some paperwork, and Patricia thought you might help." Within an hour, all 3 grandchildren were at my door, along with Patricia. Their faces showed concern, but their eyes gleamed with anticipation. They thought they were about to gain control of their inheritance. "Grandma V," Bryce said in his most caring voice, "we're here to help you sort through all this confusing legal stuff. Why don't you show us what you're working on?" I led them to my study, where I'd carefully arranged fake financial statements showing mounting debts, poor investment decisions, and dwindling savings. The fabricated documents told a story of an elderly woman losing her grip on reality and her fortune. "Oh, Grandma," Madison gasped dramatically, examining the papers, "these numbers are terrible. You've been making some really bad choices." Tyler shook his head sadly. "This is exactly what we were worried about. You need someone younger and smarter to handle your money." While they studied the fake documents, I watched Patricia whisper something to Bryce. He nodded and began casually opening desk drawers, ostensibly looking for more paperwork. When he discovered the fake will in my bottom drawer, his face went white. "Grandma," he said slowly, "what is this?" I feigned confusion. "What's what, dear?" He held up the document with shaking hands. "This says you're leaving everything to the Charleston Cat Rescue." The silence that followed was deafening. I watched their faces cycle through shock, disbelief, and finally, rage. Madison snatched the paper from her brother. "This has to be a mistake. Grandma, you can't seriously be thinking of giving our inheritance to a bunch of stray cats." "Family takes care of family," Tyler shouted, abandoning all pretense of respect. "We're your blood. We're the ones who visit you, who put up with your old-fashioned ways." Patricia stepped forward, her mask finally slipping completely. "Victoria, this document proves what I've been saying. You're clearly not capable of making sound decisions. These children have devoted their lives to caring for you, and this is how you repay them." But it was Bryce's next words that broke my heart and sealed his fate. Fine, if that's how you want to play it, we'll have you declared mentally incompetent. I've already talked to a lawyer about having you committed. One phone call, Grandma. And you'll be in a memory care facility by next week. The room fell silent except for the ticking of my grandfather's clock. These children who I'd loved, protected, and provided for had just threatened to have me locked away so they could steal what they believed was rightfully theirs. Is that so? I said quietly, my voice no longer trembling with fake frailty. Something in my tone made them all look up sharply. I walked to my desk and pressed a button I'd had installed the week before. Eleanor, I said into the intercom, please send them in. The study door opened, and Jonathan Blackwood entered with 2 other people, Detective Sarah Chen from the Savannah Police Department and Dr. Marcus Webb, a psychiatrist I'd specifically requested. What's going on? Patricia demanded, but her voice had lost its confident edge. Dr. Webb, I said calmly, as you can see, I'm standing in my own home, conducting a coherent conversation and managing my affairs independently. Do I appear to be mentally incompetent? The elderly psychiatrist smiled. On the contrary, Mrs. Ashworth, your cognitive function appears to be excellent. Your memory is sharp, your reasoning is sound, and your emotional responses are entirely appropriate. I turned to Detective Chen. Detective, did you record the threats made against me in this room? She nodded grimly. Elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, and attempted theft. We have everything we need. Finally, I looked at Jonathan. Please explain to my grandchildren who I really am. Jonathan opened his briefcase and spread real documents across the desk. Corporate filings, financial statements, and photographs of me at business conferences around the world. Your grandmother, he said slowly, is Victoria Ashworth, CEO and sole owner of Ashworth Maritime Industries. She controls one of the largest shipping empires in the world, employs over 3,000 people, and is worth approximately $12 billion. The color drained from all the faces as they stared at shipping manifests showing cargo vessels bearing our family name, contracts with companies they'd heard of, and financial statements with numbers they couldn't even comprehend. The financial documents you found were fake, I continued. The wool leaving everything to cats was fake. This entire scenario was a test to see what kind of people you'd really become, and you all failed spectacular. Lie. Madison's legs gave out, and she collapsed into a chair. But you're just our grandmother. You bake cookies and tell old stories. I bake cookies because I love you. I tell stories because they're our family history. But I also run board meetings in 3 languages, negotiate million-dollar contracts, and make decisions that affect thousands of lives every single day. Bryce's face had gone from white to red. You tricked us. You made us think you were poor and helpless. I made you think I needed your help. I corrected. What you chose to do with that information revealed your true character. Tyler was staring at the photographs of me shaking hands with world leaders and business moguls. All this time, you were rich, really, really rich, and you never told us. I wanted you to love me for who I was, not what I owned. I said sadly, I wanted to raise you to be kind, generous, and grateful people. Instead, you became exactly the opposite. Patricia tried to speak, but Detective Chen held up a hand. Ma'am, you're going to want to remain silent. We have recordings of you attempting to manipulate an elderly woman into signing over power of attorney under false pretenses. That's elder fraud, and it carries serious jail time. As Patricia was led away in handcuffs, I felt no satisfaction, only sadness. She'd been a lonely, bitter woman who'd let jealousy destroy her life, but dealing with my grandchildren was infinitely more painful. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady despite the tears in my eyes. Tyler, you're 16. You'll continue living with your guardian family. But your college fund has been transferred to scholarship programs for underprivileged students. You'll earn your education the same way I did through hard work and merit. Tyler's mouth fell open. You can't do that, I'm family. Family doesn't threaten to have grandmothers committed to steal their money, I replied. I turned to Madison. You're 18 and legally an adult. Your trust fund has been dissolved. The money will go to women's shelters and domestic violence programs. If you want to continue your education, you'll apply for financial aid like everyone else. Madison burst into tears. But I can't survive without that money. How will I pay for college? How will I live? The same way millions of young people do through scholarships, part-time jobs, and student loans. The same way I did when I was your age. Finally, I faced Bryce. You're 22. Which makes your threats against me even more serious. Your inheritance is gone. More than that, Detective Chen will be filing charges for conspiracy and elder abuse. Grandma, please. Bryce pleaded, his earlier arrogance completely gone. We're sorry, we were just confused and scared about the money situation. We didn't mean those things we said. You meant every word, I said quietly. And your first instinct wasn't to help me or support me, it was to control me and take what you thought was yours. Jonathan stepped forward with final documents. Your grandmother has established a foundation in your parents' names. The money that would have been your inheritance will now provide clean water to villages in Africa, fund medical research for childhood diseases, and support education programs worldwide. Your parents would be proud of that legacy. 6 months later, I sit in my garden on a spring morning, sipping coffee and reading updates from our foundation. The work we're doing in their parents' names is changing lives across the globe. It feels like the right way to honor Michael and Sarah's memory. Tyler was the first to reach out. He called 3 weeks after that devastating day, his voice small and ashamed. Grandma V. I want to apologize, really apologize, not because I want the money back, but because I was horrible to you, and you didn't deserve that. He's working part-time at a local bookstore while finishing high school. And his grades have actually improved. Sometimes struggle teaches us lessons that privilege never could. Madison took longer for months of silence before she appeared at my door, thinner and older looking, but with something new in her eyes. Humility. I got a job, she said quietly. It's just waitressing, but I'm paying my own way through community college. I wanted you to know that I'm trying to become someone you could be proud of. We talk twice a week now, and last month she brought her new boyfriend to dinner, a kind young man who works construction to pay for engineering school. She's learning what real love looks like. The kind that isn't based on what someone can give you. Bryce has been the hardest. He spent 3 months in jail, and when he got out, he was a different person, broken, humbled, but maybe for the first time, honest. I don't know if you can ever forgive me, he said during his first visit home, but I want you to know that I understand now. You weren't just my grandmother with money, you were my grandmother with wisdom and love and strength I never even saw. I threw all of that away because I was greedy and selfish and stupid. He's working at a shipping dock now, not one of mine, but a competitor's, loading cargo and learning the business from the bottom up. He doesn't know that I've been quietly watching his progress, seeing him arrive early, stay late, and treat his co-workers with the respect he never showed his own family. Sometimes love requires breaking something completely before it can heal properly. My grandchildren needed to lose everything to understand what they'd really lost, not money, but the love and respect of someone who would have given them the world if they'd only shown they deserved it. The real Ashworth Maritime continues to thrive. Eleanor Martinez has been promoted to Q, and we're expanding into renewable energy shipping. I still attend board meetings and make major decisions, But I'm also training the next generation of leaders, young people who've earned their positions through merit, not birthright. As for inheritance, I've made new arrangements. The bulk of my fortune will continue funding the foundation, supporting cousins Michael and Sarah cared about, but I've also established a different kind of legacy. Each of my grandchildren can earn back a portion of their inheritance. Not through blood or demands, but through service. Tyler can recover his college fund by volunteering at homeless shelters and maintaining good grades. Madison can reclaim part of her trust by working with domestic violence survivors and completing her education. Bryce can earn back his share by proving himself in honest work and making amends to the community he threatened to defraud. It may take years, it may never happen at all. But for the first time in my life, any inheritance they receive will be truly deserved. The doorbell rings, interrupting my thoughts. Tyler stands on my porch, still in his bookstore uniform, holding a small potted plant. I know it's not much, he says shyly, but I thought your garden could use some new life. And I wanted to tell you that I got accepted to Georgia Tech with a partial scholarship I earned myself. As I take the plant, a small oak tree, perfect for growing strong roots, I see something in Tyler's eyes that was never there before. Not entitlement or expectation, but gratitude, real, honest gratitude for a second chance. Maybe that's the most valuable inheritance of all, the knowledge that love, respect, and family are things you earn every single day, not rights you're born with. Maybe my grandchildren needed to be completely cut off from my fortune to finally understand their true worth and mine at 78. I thought I was too old to change a family's destiny. I was wrong. Sometimes the greatest act of love is letting people fall far enough to learn how to stand on their own, and sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply letting people show you exactly who they are, then responding with the wisdom and strength they never thought you possessed. If you've ever dealt with ungrateful family members or felt underestimated because of your age, please share your story in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and this community is here to support you. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about family, justice, and the power of standing up for yourself no matter what your age. Remember, it's never too late to reclaim your worth and demand the respect you deserve.